Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa, a channel, a platform, and a modality where we apply the principles of spirituality, mysticism, philosophy, and good business sense to rapid lifestyle transformation. And I just want to thank you all for sharing the videos. Thanks for commenting on the videos. Thanks for liking the videos. Most of all, thanks for subscribing to the channel, because when you do all these, that helps us to get the word out to as many people as possible and expand this awakening of individuals who are taking their lives into their own charge, taking responsibility for their lives by implementing the principles that we go into here. Big video today, ladies and gentlemen, based on some questions that I've gotten from subscribers. And that is, there's no such thing as failure. That's right. Failure is a myth, and we're going to briefly illustrate why, and we're going to illustrate that the state of your desire occurs the moment that you launch that desire, and then you can get into alignment with that desire, and then it's never a question on what happens from the outer. We're going to be going into some details in this video with disciplines that everyone can agree on, even people that don't accept the premise of the law of assumption. A lot of these principles will be useful to you even if you reject all of my premises, because these principles are common in every endeavor in which there's great success, whether that's business, athletics, whether it's science, because in order to be successful, you have to in some way embrace and take on board these principles. And they can be proven from various different facets, various different points of view. That's why they work. That's why you don't have to take the whole law of assumption enchilada, so to speak, but rather you can implement parts of this methodology and have success. The basic principle that I wanted to talk to you about today: there is no failure. When you read a lot of the biographies of the famous people of success, especially in business and billionaires, you will see that a lot of them failed 10, 15, 20 times. And when you look into the stories of great launchers of enterprises and companies, a lot of them failed numerous times. But this language of failure is a language that was basically invented and introduced by journalists, by professional employees, and by academics. Failure is very big in the academic world. When you get an F, you will not be able to pass on to the next grade, and so on and so forth. You have failed. But in business, think about this. What does it mean when a business fails? Well, if I launched a business and failed to make a sale, could that be considered failure? Because a lot of businesses don't make sales for the first few years. In fact, Facebook, I believe, up until now, has not made money, so to speak. Amazon purposely didn't make money for many years, didn't make a profit, because they wanted to expand. And when they finally did expand, now they're the dominant player in that market. So I ask you what failure is, and when you try to search for a definite answer, you won't be able to bring me one. In fact, a lot of people consider failure when they have to shut their doors because they aren't making any sales, therefore we're just going into business here, or when they didn't meet a certain deadline. But if you really think hard about it, these deadlines are something that are imposed from the outside. And the whole fact that I want to present to you today is that this doesn't affect your inner state in the least. When you cross a deadline in time, that can only affect your inner state if you want it to affect your inner state. We're going to go into some of this in the from the perspective of sports psychology. But there's a great preacher talking about, he was actually a Muslim preacher, Ahmad Suleiman, and I was watching a video of his, and he was talking about how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they found him the same whether he was in a state of calamity or whether he was in a state of great success. And he even talked about how if you saw him praying during the night, you would see him crying, and you would ask, is this person okay? But you would find out that nothing very great happened in his life. Also, when a calamity happened to him, when his children died and so on and so forth, or when his wife died, he did not also, you could not see a great alteration in his outer behavior. This is also detailed a lot in the Stoics. And what it means is that we don't have to allow the outer circumstances of the world dictate our state. And as long as our state is the same, as long as it remains to a certain extent constant, failure cannot affect us. And if you let failure affect you, you are a fool, because all failure is self-imposed. So let's say you open a restaurant and you don't make any sales. Well, you might not be able to pay the bill on that building, and you'll have to get out of that building. But has that really stopped your business? Can you not make some food and sell it? Can you not continue to develop other plans? There are always things that you can do. You don't fail until you yourself get out of the game. So how can we use this? We can use this to help us not look at the outward circumstances. And ironically, it's statistically proven that when you stop looking at the outer circumstances, the outer circumstances improve. And I just want to make a chart here. This chart can be seen as the way any pursuit that you take advances over time. And it all depends on what you choose to measure. And that's a very prominent aspect of what I go into in my consulting and in our coaching calls, and to a certain extent in this channel, because we also study the theory of constraint and business theory, and the overarching and all-important factor in a lot of it is what you choose to focus on, what you choose to measure. Because if you're measuring the wrong thing, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to not have a real gauge on what's going on, and you're going to indeed dip into despair. So we have to choose the right thing to measure. So is it pizza sold? Is it barrels of oil extracted from the ground? You find the things to measure by finding the things to focus on. And you find the thing to focus on by figuring out the aspect of your enterprise or of your endeavor that's not meeting market demand. That's called a constraint or a bottleneck. And we'll go into this in more videos when we specifically apply these circumstances. But let's assume we know what to measure. So M is the thing that's being measured. And then T is going to be on the x-axis or the bottom, and that's going to be time. And here's what the chart looks like for most people. This is what the chart of growth looks like for most people. Over time, as long as we stay in there and are not wiped out, as we stay in the game, we learn and we adapt. And over time, we can get to this point, but it's not linear. We're taking dips there. The key in sports psychology and in business psychology and in the law of assumption is you have to give it to yourself before it's ever met. So you're at the point up here. This is where you are. You're on this line. So you don't even care when it dips. Of course, you use that information to course correct, and this is all part of the process. But there's no action that you have to take. And as long as you stay on that line above and don't dip, like Muhammad and like the Stoics, as long as you're not changing no matter what happens on the outer, you will get there. This is proven statistically in business studies, and this is proven by sports psychology. There was a story of a golfer, and he was a great golfer, but he started losing a lot of games. And he and his coach came to the conclusion that it was because he focused on how he was doing in the game so much that sort of shook him up and got him off course, and made him focus on that as opposed to focusing on his skill. And so the coach told him, I want you to do nothing else but focus on how you play the game. Because as the great Ryan Holiday, the Stoic teacher, the current author of many great Stoic books, including The Obstacle is the Way, talks about, you can't control how the other players play, You can control how you play the game. You can't control the weather. You control how you play the game. You can't control how you feel. You can't control the wind, but you can control how you play your game. And much like that, this golf coach told his student, his disciple, that you can only control how you play the game. Therefore, I want you to only focus on how you play the game. I want you actually to not give a damn about the score. That's a bit of an exaggeration because you have to look at the score periodically to get feedback as to how you're doing. We'll teach you that. But the main 90% focus has to be on how you are approaching the game, your form. So this golfer did that, and he practiced, and he got really good. And he was playing a golf game, and I think it ended up that he won the tournament. But people were clapping, but he didn't even know until his wife told him, "Hey, did you know you won the tournament?" And he's like, "Oh my God." He didn't even know that he won the tournament. He was too solidly focused on his form and how he was playing the game. This is how you have to be. And when you do that, you don't care about failure. Okay, I didn't make any sales. That means it's time to go back to the drawing board and align more. Even more importantly, that means it's time to go back to my state because I know that what I see on the outer is reflecting something that I've got going on in the inner. It's what we train you to do in this channel with mental rehearsal, with knowing what your blocks are, and with either going around them or trying to work on them. We teach these all in the techniques. So, another issue that we wanted to sort of briefly touch on is that you're feeling when you fail. You don't have to feel negative emotion when you fail, because failure is going to mean different things to different people, and the emotional scale for those two groups of people will be the same, but they'll be at different points. So, for example, this is where continuous growth goes into. Let's just take the vibration of wealth. Imagine these are vibrations. Some of people are down here in the vibration of poverty, and some people are down up here in the vibration of great wealth. Now imagine that you're in poverty and you're on the emotional scale. This is joy, and D is despair. When you dip into despair, you're at the level of, let's say, $100 in your bank account. When you go into the joy, you're in the level of $1,000 in your bank account. Now, for the very wealthy person, he may be up here at joy when he has $20 billion in holdings, and he may be in despair when he only has $1 billion in holdings. But the trick is that the emotional scale is exactly the same. The emotional scale still goes from joy and despair, whether it's the person dealing with billions of dollars or whether it's the person dealing with hundreds of dollars. What's that a proof of? That's a proof that the outer doesn't matter. All you need to do is focus on the inner. Because whether you get $100 or $1 billion, you're going to joy, and the more you are in joy in the upper part of the scale, ironically, the higher up you're moving up these vibrations. So you don't really need to do anything to change your vibration. All you need to do is focus on your inner work. All you need to do is be like the Stoics and be the same whether ill is happening or whether good is happening. Because at the end of the day, you don't even know what's good or what's bad for you. And in this methodology, if we're going into the law of assumption, we know that we are one with the divinity. There's only one. Therefore, there's nothing good or bad. Therefore, since you're the only one, any cause for you can lead to any effect. Therefore, everything that happens to you can lead to the effect that you want. Money can indeed grow out of trees, if we're there vibrationally. What does that mean? You can start seeing everything that happens on your path as a positive. You can start seeing that as something that's getting you to where you want, including so-called failure. And we want to stop calling it failure, and we want to call it a challenging feedback, or a feedback that shows us where we need to do the work interiorly. Just like Ryan Holiday titled one of his books, and just like Marcus Aurelius said, the obstacle is the way. When you see an obstacle, that should be news to you. Oh, I just need to change the way I'm going about this interiorly and keep holding that vibration of success. And I don't care about this graph over here. It's just an exciting ride, but I'm here the whole time. I'm the same every time. So ladies and gentlemen, that's why there's no failure. Continue giving energy to your endeavors. Continue getting into state. Continue playing with the energy, and don't take it very seriously, because nothing is very serious. And at the end of the day, you cannot fail. So thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I am doing coaching calls where I take you down the path of this methodology step by step. I'm doing 3 calls packages with the 4th call free for $300 for 4 hours, ladies and gentlemen, when I usually charge $120 for an hour or $60 for 30 minutes. I already have very many great testimonials from our clients. It's a unique perspective on consulting where I bring my years of experience as a consultant, as well as these principles that we've distilled from philosophy, mysticism, and spirituality. It's something that will take off your life in more ways than we can describe here. Thanks for subscribing and liking to the channel. Please hit that subscribe button, and for the coaching calls, I will put my email in the description. So thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot of exciting videos coming up this week that you don't want to miss. So until tomorrow, this is Javier with great love and appreciation. We'll see you very soon.